Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So, welcome back to the Bhagavad Gita discussion on the Sarartha Varshini Tika and the Rasika Ranjan, which is the sub commentary to the Sarartha Varshini. We are yet to begin chapters 7 to 12. We are now going through the overviews and we are on the third chapter overview. So today we'll complete the third chapter overview and begin with the fourth chapter. And after this overviews, then we will begin with uh, the actual verse by verse, threadbare, line by line discussion on Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary on the Gita, which is Sarartha Varshini, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur's commentary, which is called as the Rasika Ranjan, which is actually a sub commentary to the Sarartha Varshini Tika. So yesterday we saw that how if you're not qualified to practice Karma Yoga, then practice Sakama Karma. But come to the platform of Nishkam Karma Yoga. And if you think you're qualified for Jnana Yoga, still practice Nishkam Karma Yoga to set an example. And then Krishna brings out the difference between Karma Yoga and Karma Kand. And now, ultimately, the whole point of the teaching, how it is expanding from the second chapter, is Krishna began teaching in 2.47 Karmanyavadikaraste and how Karma Yoga elevates. Although, he has spoken how Bhakti is Nistraigunya and the glory of Bhakti has spoken, Neha Bikramana Ashwasti. But this Bhakti, he is going to teach in the middle six chapters and ultimately come to the conclusion in the 18th chapter. So it is gradually being revealed in the Bhagavad Gita. So at now this point in the Gita, he is teaching how for Arjuna, you have adhikar for karma. So practice Nishkama Karma Yoga. So that's the point. And now how Karma Yoga elevates, how karma is not going to entangle you. So that's the teaching which is going to expand uh, in these chapters, third and fourth especially. And how when Karma Yoga, which ultimately needs to Atma Gyan, where you become self-realized, person is not bound. And that state of consciousness will be spoken in the fifth chapter. So there's a gradual step-by-step elevation, which Karma Yoga, where there is no entanglement of sinful activities, sinful reactions. That's the point Krishna is making. And now at this point, Krishna mentions how Karma Yoga elevates, how it elevates. That uh, he speaks in verses 32, 35. So let's take up this section. मयि सर्वाणि कर्माणि सन्न्यस्याध्यात्मचेतस निराशीर्निर्ममो भूत्वा युद्धस्व विगत ज्वर. Offering all activities to me. Mayi sarvani karmani. So in one sense, you can say this is first time in the Gita, Krishna is, you know, revealing. There's a gradual revelation of that, Nishkam Karma Yoga should be offered to the Lord, right? So now it is me. I am that Lord. Krishna is speaking this. Just a second. I'll use my writer tablet so that anything I want to mark, I can easily do it. Yeah. So he is using the term Mayi, all activities to me. So Krishna had indirectly mentioned in 2.6 Matpara, Matpara, and then in Bhagavad Gita, next in the third chapter, where he had mentioned directly, about himself. Anyone knows? Raise your hands. Let us see. where he had mentioned those who have been regularly attending should know this, and those who have attended the entire series for 6 chapters should definitely know this. Where he mentions again in the third chapter, direct reference to him. Anyone who knows? Shri Lalita Sumukhi Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes.
Is it
Where
3
does he
point?
refer directly? Huh? Pardon?
Not very sure, Prabhu. 3.14 to
3.14.
3.14. Let me check, Prabhu. No, I'm not very sure, Prabhu.
1 second. 3.14. What is 3.14? No, अन्नात् भवन्ति भूतानि पर्जन्य अन्य संभव यज्ञात् भवति पर्जन्यो यज्ञ कर्म समुद्भव. Yeah, Sri Lalita Mataji.
I'm not very sure, Prabhu.
Okay, why you're not sure? 3.9. There also it is there, 3.14, but yajna is introduced.
Yeah.
And tadartam. He doesn't say madartam. He doesn't identify himself. He identifies himself as a third person, tadartam. But it doesn't say madartam. But now in Bhagavad Gita 3.30, he is referring me,
Okay.
me, unto me, me. So gradual revelation is happening, you can see here. There's a gradual revelation of the absolute truth happening. So all activities, karmani, sannyas means without desiring the fruits, being fixed in the soul, adhyatma chetasa. So because this nishkama karma yoga, nishkama karma yoga, ultimately, there is the soul, there is the subtle body, there is the gross body. There are activities of the sabhava which are meant to realize the self. Wherein bhakti, both the soul's activities, which are the 9 limbs, and our swabhava activities, we offer to Krishna. You know, not to realize the self, directly to realize Krishna. So that's bhakti. You know, and once conditioning is purified, then it's only the soul's activities. Then it is pure bhakti. But here it is wrong, being fixed in the Atma. So Vishwanath Chakra Thakur in his commentary mentions what is Adhyatma. Adhyatma Chetasa means in the consciousness fixed in the Atma. Whereas as devotees in the consciousness that it is we are doing it for Krishna. So that's the difference in Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. Being without possession of desire, Nirashir, Anya Bilashitasam, Nirmama, Bhutva, devoid of fever, Vigata Jvara, fight, Yuddhasva. So here I have mentioned Mayi Sarvani Karmani is transcendental. Sannyas Adhyatma Chetasa is the mode of goodness. Nirashir Nirmama Bhutva is mode of passion. Yuddhasva Vigata Jvara, is mode of ignorance. So like that, we can say in one sense. Now having concluded that one should do this, for me, then Krishna, you know, when there is love. When there is love, love can only grow when there is freedom. Opposed to other kinds of Abrahamic religion, if you don't, worship God, then you'll go to hell eternally. That's the only destination, where there is no, there's no other opportunity only. You have to be forcibly accept the teachings, right? So, but Krishna say gives, teaching by contrast that, if you do follow my instructions, what is the result? If you don't follow my instructions, what is the result? The choice he gives, the choice is there. So here you can see Krishna gives the choice. If you follow the instructions, what will happen? He gives in 3.31. ये मे मतम इदम नित्यम ननुतिष्ठन्ति मानव श्रद्धावान्तो अनुसूयन्त Muchyante tepi karma bhi. Only those who ye manava always follow nityam anutishtanti. Always, nityam, my teaching. Me idam matam. So, me idam matam refers to 3.30 Nishkam Karma Yoga and all the teachings from 2.47. With faith, Shraddhavanto, and without envy, Anusuyanto, are free from the bondage of actions. Te karma bhi muchyante. So, this is the result of following that in Nishkam Karma Yoga, na, the Antakarma purification is the goal. In Bhakti, it is prema. You know? So, actions done to the Lord out of love. Here, it is actions done based on the Sabha to realize the self. That's a totally difference. So Vishwanath Thakur just gives a one-line commentary in this verse. The Lord speaks to encourage people to take up his teachings. That's it. And then what happens next? Hmm. If you know, okay, here this is very important. Prabhupada's purport, wrong attitude toward devotional service, rejection, resentment. The standard is too high and impractical. You know, just like, in a jumping, there's, uh, when you have to jump, in athletes, there is jumping, high jumping, and the rod is very high. When it is too high, you know, why this is so high, you resent, you know, and oh, it is too high, I just cannot make it. Hopeless, I am too fallen, you know. So it's like scaling a tall hurdle. And the best way to do is to come to that high standard. First thing is you have to go back and run from a long distance, and then you can just jump over that hurdle, right? So similarly, we have to take step by step. The standards we have to keep on evolving come till we come to that high level, and we should not be, having resentful attitude that the standard is to have higher practical, or there should not be hopelessness. So that's how these wrong attitudes. And then in this verse, the Lord speaks the bad effects of doing the opposite. So if you don't follow, what will happen? Ye to etad abhyasuyanta nanutushtanti me matam sarva jnana vimudanstan vidhi nashtan achetasa. But know, Vidhi, that those who, ye tu, devoid of all knowledge, sarva jnana vimudan, devoid of proper consciousness, achetasa, and hostile to this teaching, etad me matam abhyasuyanto, do not follow it, anutashtanti, are lost. So Krishna says, what will happen? Sarva jnana, sarva jnana vimudanstan, and vidhi nashtan achetasa. Those who nanutishtamti me matam, and out of envy, you know, if they don't follow, being hostile to these teachings, this is the effect, the bad effect of not following. So I've again mentioned, Lord is the Lord of love, freedom is choice, teaching by contrast. If you do this, muchante tepi karmabi. And if you don't do, nashtan achetasa. So it's left to you. No? Now, this is a very interesting verse. How, one should ultimately, everyone follows one's nature, but there is, how one should. Okay, I'll come to this verse first and then go into the discussion. Sadrisham chestate swasya prakriterjnanavanapi prakritim yanti bhutani nigraha kim karishyati. Even the man of knowledge, jnanavanapi, acts chestate according to his nature. Swasya prakrite sadrisham. Arjuna, your nature is of a Kshatriya. Okay. So there is a soul and there is a subtle body in which, our nature is a Swabhava. And there is a gross body. So Arjuna in the Leela, he's a Kshatriya. Now here I have drawn a little, diagram of our Swabhava. A Swabhava can be Brahmana or a Kshatriya or Vaishya. But within this sum total of all these impressions in the chitta, the sum total sometimes is called as vasanas. And there are certain vasanas which are not harmonizable with our swabhava. Like I gave the example of a Brahmana. A Brahmana, based on his nature, he has inclination to study Shastra. So he does Patan Patana, Dana Parigraha. He does these activities, but he also has a desire to marry. Now, this desire is harmonizable with Dharma, you know. But after getting married, if he desires to enjoy others' wife, this is Vasana. And Krishna in the next verse 3.34 will mention that one should not come under such raga and dvesh because then they are stumbling blocks in the path of Nishkam Karma Yoga. So Arjuna is a Kshatriya and he is more passion and he can fight a Dharma Yuddha. But he gives up his Swadharma, his Swabhava, and artificially takes up to the Jnani role and he wears a sannyasi and he goes for Bhiksha and somebody, criticizes him. Kshatriyas cannot bear insults, you know that, right? He criticizes them, then what happens? He will take his sword and kill him and ultimately perform sin. So that's why Krishna here is speaking about, Sadrasam Cheshta Swasya. Swasya means one's own nature, you know. When does Cheshta according to one's nature? Prakritir Jnanavanapi, even the man of knowledge acts according to his nature. Swasya Prakriti. In fact, Prakriti Myanti Bhutani, all living entities act according to your nature. Prakriti Myanti Bhutani. What can instructions of karma and gyan do for the most fallen? Nigraha kim karishyati. So Arjuna has this nature of a Kshatriya and trying to repress that nature will not help. So, but a Brahmana who has a desire to marry and he gets married, but after getting married, if he has a desire to enjoy others' wives, that is, he should regulate that, Nigra. But here, Arjuna, even if he has desire to marry other, means he can marry as a Kshatriya is allowed. But if he's not following dharma and does adharmic, then he'll also get the sinful reaction. That's what you have to understand. So here, Nigra Kim Karishati, what can repression accomplish? We have to understand that, trying to suppress our nature will not work. But we need to what? Become suppress our vasanas and purify the vasanas by practicing Nishkam Karma or Bhakti Yoga. So we cannot say that, Arey, I am having this Kam Vasana to enjoy others' wives. So what can repression accomplish? Anyway, Krishna is saying this. Krishna is not meaning that. He is speaking about Swabhava, not about Vasanas. I hope this is very, very clear. We have spent a lot of time discussing this while we have discussed the verse to verse detail, but I'm just not going into the details now. So that is the point. Everyone follows their nature. The instructions of the scripture are there, Nigra, made by the Lord in the form of Nishkam Karma Yoga, and they are able to purify and enlighten the impure hearted, and they are able to purify the pure hearted in the form of Jnanaga. But these instructions of Nishkam Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga cannot purify the extremely impure because of they have too many vasanas. That's what the point also is, right? But here, a simpler understanding is that there is difference between Prakriti, Swasya, Swabhava, and Vasanas. So Vasanas have to be always regulated, and that is. So I have mentioned here, Prakriti means material nature, innate to our psychophysical nature, and harmonizable with Dharma. As I mentioned about a Brahmana has a desire to get married, that is harmonizable. But Vasana is a material desire, superficial to our psychophysical nature, and not harmonizable with Dharma. So Arjuna's not taking up the Kshatriya role and taking up the role of a Jnani and taking the renounced order is actually not superficial to his psychophysical nature and it is not harmonizable by Dharma. So that's the point Krishna is trying to make. So there is regulated expression, Karma Yoga. If we only do things that we like to do, we will get a strong sense of doership. We will never learn to discipline our mind, and so we won't develop taste for the core devotional activities. So, sometimes, "Arre, this is my nature, I don't like to do this." But ultimately, in the path of bhakti, it is sarva dharman parityajya. So, if you only like to do according to what your nature suits, then that sense of doership becomes strong. And then we cannot discipline also our mind. So, to develop core taste for devotional activities, one has to transcend even that also in the path of bhakti. That's the point, here we are trying to make. Now, Krishna makes that point, the senses are attracted to or fixed in the sense objects. Indriyasya indriyarte raga dvesha vyavasito. Raga and dvesha is there. Tayor na vashamajya chet. Tohi asya paripantino. So, in our psychophysical nature, in the subtle body, there are desires. You know, Vasana is in the form of, getting married. That is harmonizable with dharma. But the desire to enjoy others' wives, it is a vasana. That has to be regulated. And if you come under that control, they will become a stumbling block or obstacles in the path of spiritualism. Attachment and repulsion are firmly fixed. Raga, dvesha, vyavasito in each of the sense objects. Indriyasya, indriyarte. One should not come under the control of attachment and repulsion. Tayor na vashamagache. They are two obstacles. Tohi asya paripantino. So Vishwanath Chakra Thakur also in his commentary mentions that attachment for what is forbidden by scripture, such as giving gifts to other wives, or seeing or touching their bodies, or repulsion for what is prescribed by the scripture, such as distributing gifts to, serving, and seeing and touching the Guru, the Brahmana, the holy places, and visitors, are firmly fixed. Vishesha avastito in all the sense objects, form, smell, taste, touch, and sound. One should not be under control, vasham of such attachment and repulsion. So there is attachment for giving gifts to others' wives or seeing or touching their bodies. You know. So this is vasana, that is raga. And dvesha is, what is prescribed in the scripture but not doing, like distributing gifts, serving, seeing and touching the Guru. Touching the Guru is, you know, you know, it's to be done, but you don't want to do it, which scriptures are saying. So there is dvesha. So one should not come under the control of this raga and dvesh. Tohi asya paripantino. Tohi asya paripantino. And that's why he concludes Shreyan Swadharma Viguna Paradharmat Swanishtitat Swadharme Nidanam Shreya Paradharmo Bhayavaha. It is better to perform one's own duties even in a faulty way. Shreyan Swadharma Viguna. Than to perform others' duties, albeit very well. Paradharmat Swanishtita. Destruction in the course of one's duties is beneficial. Swadharme Nidanam Shreya. Arjuna, you're a Kshatriya. And it is Shreyan to do your dharma, although there you see that there is fault here because killing your own relatives. But ultimately, it will be better. And by performing your swadharma, even if you are nidhanam, even if you die also, it is Shreya because ultimately you will attain Swarga. You will attain Swarga. Performing the other duties is full of danger. Para dharma bhayava. So Arjuna takes up a sannyas role, Jnani sannyasi, and is in the Himalayas. And then begging, somebody insults him and he kills him. So performing other duties very nicely, but still what will happen? Because of this activity, he will incur a great sin and which will lead to degradation and hellish condition for him. So that's why Shreyan, Swadharma, Viguna, even if it is Viguna, one should, one should boldly perform one's duties, even though one may have some slight fault. This is better than performing others' duties, even if those duties are executed well and are full of good qualities. So this is what Vishnu Chakra says. Attaining death in the course of performing one's duty is beneficial because it leads to heaven, as I mentioned. Performing others' duties for which one is not qualified is dangerous, leading to hell. So this is what Vishnu Chakra says. Uh, okay, this is not required now here for the discussion. So now we have completed this section. Now the last section is overcoming lust. Now it should have been. So you have any questions on this section? I can take up the questions before I go to the last section. Any questions, any clarifications? Yeah. Yes, Navneet Kalra Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dhanwad.
Yes.
I just have
Yes.
one question. In 3.30, when Krishna says, May Sarvani Karmani, in the path of, like in Bhakti, I understood it's Krishna to be, he's referring to himself. But from the point of view of Nishkam Karma Yoga, what is he referring to? Is it his form as
Here,
Krishna only?
he is referring that ultimately one's consciousness in Nishkam Karma Yoga is that I'm identifying more with my Swabhava, that I'm a Brahmana, I'm a Kshatriya, and my consciousness is that I have to do these activities because I have this designation. And these activities ultimately in Nishkam Karma, the fruits are offered to the Supreme. And it is me, my. But in bhakti, the consciousness is that I am what? Part and parcel of Krishna, and I have to do it for Krishna's pleasure. It's not that I am a Kshatriya, I am a Brahmana. So that's a difference, subtle difference between the two, operating platforms. In fact, even in bhakti, we identify ourselves with the body. And only when we transcend the body and on the spirit soul, then the bhakti activities are in one sense nirguna bhakti. But even in the conditioned state, we have this understanding and we act on this platform that, we are servants of Krishna, and in that mood we are performing devotional service. But in the Nishkam karma, it's more identification with the nature of the Swabhava. And the consciousness is mere that, I have to do this because this is my dharma. But in bhakti, the dharma is devotional service. So that's the difference. I hope you got it.
No, my point was that do in Nishkam Karma Yoga, do a Nishkam Karma Yogi identify Supreme Personality Godhead as Krishna or in some other form?
Hmm. They also identify Krishna only, but there are a lot of
Okay.
subtle differences which we had brought out also in the verse to verse discussion. See, there is in Nishkam Karma Yoga, the consciousness is that I have to do this karma and I have to do this offering to the Lord, arpanam, you know. But in bhakti, the act itself is bhakti. There is no need to offer it, you know. Are you getting this point? In
Yeah,
fact,
yeah.
you can be chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. I had a very
Mm,
good, Brajbasi friend in Govardhan. We had become
mm,
close friends. He was before in the military. He was born in Govardhan, and after retiring, he is taking care of the Manasi Devi, that is Yogamaya temple, the family deity it is. Every day, he does the Abhishek, does the Aarti, and he also sits and chants the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And I also used to go and sit and chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra there. And one day, it got revealed that ultimately I have to chant this Maha Mantra and offer it because I am a Brahman, I have to offer it to the Lord. So when you're
mm,
operating in this level of consciousness, you're more identifying your varna. But the act
mm.
of bhakti, the act itself is a, act of devotion. So this subtle covering is there, Gyan Avran and Karma Avran. And that is why their bhakti is more of a karma, which is arpanam. Are you getting this point?
Yes. Yeah.
Ah. Whereas for us, if even as devotees, if we are in this consciousness, no, I have to offer it, offer my, these devotional angas, especially these 9 limbs or which are expanded into 6 rules, then we are still in that consciousness. And I give that simple example, that Mahaprabhu likes shark. So I go to the market, I buy shark, I cut the shark, wash it, clean it with all this consciousness I'm doing, because I'm trying to please Mahaprabhu, Gaur-Nitai deities. And then I cook, and then ultimately offer it to Gaur-Nitai deities for their pleasure. Now, although there are all these actions are bhakti. You have to understand. There is no karma. But I like pasta or pizza. I go to the market and buy the ingredients. And then later on, I cook the Pakistan pizza and then because I want to have it, but still I have to first offer it to Lord. So yad karoshi, yad joshi, yad ashnasi, yad tapasyasi kaunteya, tad kurusva madarpanam. So there is arpanam because it is not done with nishkama bhav. There is kama bhakti. So that's why in bhakti there can be these two types. One is Ananya, Shuddha, and other is Mishra, which is called as Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti. So generally we fall in these two categories, and mostly we fall in Pradhani Bhuta category until we are at the platform of Anya Bilashata Shunyam and Jnana Karmadi Navritam. I hope the point is clear, right?
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Any other questions you have regarding this section which we discussed now? Bir Pushpaji, yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah.
Prabhu, this 3.35 verse, Shreyanso Dharmo Viguda Par Dharmas Samastitata.
Yeah.
So this verse, how it should be seen in light of Sarvopadi Vinirmuktam Tatparatvan? I mean, from that angle, from Sarvopadi Vinirmuktam, can this verse be useful for practicing devotee, or I hope you are getting it.
You're trying to compare, with the definition of, what is given in the Karma Shastras or the Dharma Shastras to the definition of pure Bhakti Shastras. That kind of comparison is not required. Basically, when one is following Bhakti Shastras and trying to develop faith in Bhakti, then he has no faith in Karma Shastras. Okay. And neither he is following the type of comparison is not required in one sense. What we need to know is, swe adhikari yete, whatever adhikar we have, according to that, we should follow. That is our duty. And I cannot go into that details now, which is there in the Uddhav Gita. But the point is that, whether now as practicing devotees we are brahmacharis or grahasthas or vanaprasthas or sannyasis, are practicing bhakti, but our development of faith is happening in bhakti, and being in the grahastha, you cannot take up to activities of a renounced person, so you'll have to act in the grahastha ashram and practice bhakti, which is favorable for you to make steady advancement. So that is what has to be seen in the light from the Bhakti Shastras. So there is no need to compare this with Dharma Shastras because they are meant for adhikar, those who are having for dharma, for karma.
Yes.
But we have adhikar for bhakti, so that's why we have to see from that light, So that is what is my understanding.
Yes,
Is it clear?
thank you. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so now let's come to this last section. Now, in karma, there is action with the senses, and lust also resides in the senses. So, how to overcome lust, which is the main obstacle on the path? Even as we know that the senses are engaged in Krishna service, and the senses also, all the lust is situated in the senses, mind, and intellect, but at the grossest level, it is senses. So these are the main obstacles even in the path of Bhakti Yoga. So from the application sense, we need to take also the entire first six chapters of Bhagavad Gita for Bhakti. So here also this is most relevant, and many times we discuss these verses also in detail. So now based on the question, based on Krishna's discussion, especially about 3.33 and 34, Arjuna has a question that is in 3.35. Atakena prayuktoyam papam charati purushah annichannapi varshneya bhaladiva niyojita. O descendant of Vrishnis, Varshneya, by what? Atakena prayukta. Does a man engage in sin? Ayam purusha papam charati, though unwillingly, annichanapi, as if by force. So Krishna had spoken about raga and dvesh. And attachment to the object senses, such as enjoyment with others' wives, even though it is forbidden by scripture, but still he does this. So, though, without desire to engage in sin because of knowledge of the rules and prohibitions of the scripture, anichan, by what influence? Kaha prayukta. Does one engage in an act as if by force? This means that the desire for the object strongly arises under the influence of the object's stimulus. So, what is that? And then Krishna starts this whole series, which is a very beautiful series. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Kamesha Krodesha Rajaguna Samudbhava Mahashano Mam Mahapapma Vidhi Enam Hi Vairinam. The Lord said it is lust and then anger. Kamesha Krodesha. Arising from the mode of passion. Rajaguna Samudbhava. Knowing this, Vidhi Enam as the great devourer, Maha Ashno, the great ferocious one, Mahapapma, the enemy, Vairinam. So this desire, the Kama Vasana, the Vasanas I mentioned, which are not harmonizable, they are because of Kama, and it is arising from the mode of passion. Know this. And this Kama will devour you, Maha Ashno. Just like, sometimes a huge python will devour an entire crocodile. So this calm vasana can devour and destroy your entire material body and, destroy your complete spiritual life also. And it is great ferocious one, Mahapapma. So here, Mahapapma, lust makes men into monsters and women into witches. That's how it is. And Mahashnu means lust devours everything, leaving nothing as sacred. So it is lust only, you know. Lust is Mahashnu, parasite if it is in the background of our consciousness, poison if it is in the foreground of our consciousness. Wish is more dangerous than Vishay because, Vishay, because it kills repeatedly, kills just by contemplation without consumption. So this is, Vishaya, you know. It is a great devourer. It is impossible to satisfy the So it's a great demon. No, lust is a very great demon, Mahapapma. And now the degrees of lust, Krishna speaks in the next verse. Dhumena vrita vahane yatadarsho malena cha yatolbena vrito garbhas tata tenidam avritam. As fire is covered by smoke, yata dhumena avrita vahani, the mirror by the dust, adarsho malena cha, or embryo by the womb, yatha ulbena avrito garbha. So the universe is covered by lust. Tata tena idam avritam. So the whole universe is covered by lust. Lust is not just an enemy of some, but an enemy of all. Because the whole universe is enveloped with lust. And there are three examples given here. Fire smoke, humans, thin and penetrable. Dust mirror, animals, thick and tough to penetrate. And womb in the child, plants, super thick and penetrable only after long effort. So these are the 3 degrees of lust which is spoken. Then covering like this, what it is? Avritam jnaname jnanino nityavairina kamarupena kaunteya dushpuranalena cha. The knowledge of the knower, soul. Jnanina, jnanam is covered, avritam, by this eternal enemy. Etena nitya vairina. It is an eternal enemy in the form of lust. Kamarupena, which is like an unsatisfied fire. Dushpurena analena. So lust is none other than the ignorance of the jiva, for it covers the knowledge of the jiva. You know, eternal enemy, Nitya Vairina, Vishwanath Chakravarti says, indicates that lust must be by all means be killed. But this ignorance in the form of lust compared by this ignorance is in the form of lust is compared to unsatisfied fire. Dushpurena anilija. Knowledge is covered. You know? So that's why one has to, just like by supplying butter in the fire is not going to come down. It will increase more and more. So the endeavor to stop lusty desires by continual enjoyment can never be successful. So this he quotes from the Bhagavatam 9th canto. So now the seating places of the lust. Indriyani mano buddhi asyadishthanamuchyate eter vimoyatyesha jnanam avritta dehinam. The senses, mind and the intelligence. Indriyani mano buddhi are the seats of this lust. Asya adhishtanam uchyate. By these, ete, lust covering the knowledge of the soul. Jnanam avritta dehinam bewilders the soul. Vimohiti esha. So I had given this example of how, in the Red Fort, the message comes to the, parliament, and they say that, terrorists are going to blast the Red Fort. So moment, the military is deployed and the whole military is guarding this fort. In the main front gate, which is the big fort gate, these are the small gates. The main front fort gate, what? There is a lot of commanders are there in front, and there is a main commander in chief, and there is a screening, and people are screened and sent inside. But then one person, comes with a suitcase, and seeing them only, the soldiers, become alert. They can understand that he is carrying something. And then when they put in the screening, the person who's screening that says, to the commander in chief, "Sir, there is a bomb in the suitcase." But still this person says, "Allow him inside." And then he goes through this main gate, and right in the, building, he detonates. And then there is a blast. So similarly, what happens is, Indriya, the senses are these like soldiers, Mana is like the screening of the mind, the screening instrument. And intelligence is that commander in chief. And the sense objects enter through these gates. So we have these 5 gates, the 5 Gyanendriyas, 5 gates. And here is in the center sitting the king. So here is the soul. Consciousness is there. That consciousness gets polluted by enjoying sense objects. So that's what we explained. That's why the senses, the indriyani mano buddhi, the senses, mind, and intelligence are the seats of this lust. By these, lust covering the knowledge of the soul, jnanam avritanam bewilders the soul. So the four body, the gates are the sense objects, the scanner is the mind, the main commander is the intelligence, and the soul is consciousness. The 5 gates are the 5 knowledge acquiring senses. The main gate is the eye. The lust generally enters to the eye. Tasmat tvam indriyanyado niyamya bharatarshaba papmanam prajahi enam jnana vijnana nashanam. Therefore, as a first step, ado, by controlling the senses, indriyani niyamya. O best of the Bharat lineage, Bharatarshaba, kill this demon, tvam prajahi enam papmanam, which destroys knowledge and intelligence. Jnana vijnana nashanam. So that's why ultimately this lust is seated in the senses, which are gross. So conquering the shelters of the enemy can be destroyed. Now this whole war is going on, and wherever these bunkers are there, where they're going to launch the missiles or where the missiles are stored, the bases. So the enemy targets them and hits them. So similarly, the shelter of lust is the senses, mind, and intellect, which are respectively increasingly difficult to conquer. Senses, less difficult, mind more difficult, intelligence more difficult because they are subtler. So the senses are difficult to control, but they are easy to conquer than the other items, the mind and the senses. Therefore, first the senses should be conquered. You should control the senses. Though the uncontrollable wants to steal others' wives or properties, one should not engage the senses by stopping the actions of the senses such as eye, ears, hands, and feet. Kill this papmanam. That means stop the movement of the senses. After a long time, the mind will also become free from lust. So that's what. Begin with the senses. And then he gives the hierarchy. Indriyani paranyaho indriyabhyah param manasastu para buddhi yo buddhe parasastu saha. It is said that the senses are supreme. Indriyani paranyaho. But superior to the senses is the mind. Indriyabhya param. Superior to the mind is the intelligence. Manasastu para buddhi. And what is superior to intelligence is the Atma. Yo buddhi parasastu sa. So here, Krishna gives the hierarchy. One should not try to conquer over the mind and intelligence first, but this is impossible. That is conveyed here because of this hierarchy. The senses are considered great in strength, parani, for they cannot be conquered even by warriors who conquer the 10 directions. But the mind is superior to the senses as it is even stronger, not being destroyed even during dreams. When the senses do not function, we know, the senses are not functioning when sleep, but the mind, dwells on sense objects, But compared to the mind, the intelligence, which is in the form of Vigyan, discernment, is stronger. During deep sleep, when even the mind does not function, the intelligence remains present in a general form since it is not destroyed during deep sleep. But compared to the intelligence, that which is superior in strength is the famous Jivatma because it continues to exist even when intelligence is destroyed by the practice of Gyan. By the practice of Gyan, intelligence is destroyed. Subtle body is destroyed means, intelligence. This Jivatma is the conqueror of lust. So ultimately, if the Prabhupada in his purport mentions, if the soul is engaged in Krishna service, then ultimately the mind, senses, and the intelligence is also engaged. But generally, we have to follow this hierarchy that we engage the senses, but the mind is not in the service, So Prabhupada brings out that, superior engagement, which he is taking from Vishwanath Chakravarti's commentary. So this Jivatma is the conqueror of this, because actually the Jivatma, which is more powerful than all of them, can conquer the senses, mind and intelligence and conquer lust. Thus, it is understood that it is not an impossible task to conquer lust. So that's the point he makes. So now the last verse. So the soul is superior, to the intelligence, mind and the senses. So generally what we do is the intelligence through Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, we through that intelligence is purified. With the purified intelligence, the mind is controlled, and with that the senses are controlled, and thus the senses are not pulled away from the sense objects. So when the intelligence is contaminated, it is material intelligence. But when the intelligence is purified, it is pure spiritual intelligence. And this intelligence is under the dictation of the soul. But right now, this contaminated intelligence is under the dictation of the mind and the senses and the sense objects. The sense objects get attracted, the senses get attracted to the sense objects. The sense objects want to enjoy. So they drag the mind, and the mind drags the intelligence because the intelligence is contaminated. So by hearing Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, we purify the intelligence. But here Vishwanath Chakravarti is speaking the soul, the Jivatma is Mahan, is superior to the senses, mind and intelligence. So if the soul itself is engaged in Krishna consciousness, ultimately the senses, mind and intelligence are engaged. But there is a gradual purification also happening, we have to understand. So both these approaches have to be taken. Now he concludes, Evam buddhe param buddva samstabhatmana atmana jai shatrum mahabhavo kamarupa durasadam. Thus, evam, understanding buddha, that the soul is superior to the intelligence. Buddhe param. being established in the self by the self. Samstabhya Atmana Atmana. So here Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives a deeper understanding, but Prabhupada and Baldev Vidyabhushan mention that with the purified intelligence, control the mind. But here the soul is Mahan, so the soul, I will not engage in sense enjoyment. The soul's determination is strongest. That's why be established in the self by the self, he says. Samstabhya Atmana, destroy the enemy, Jai Shatru, in the form of lust, Kama, because the soul is Mahan. This verse concludes the topic. Thakur says, understanding the Jiva is superior to the intelligence, understanding that it is separate from all the coverings, destroy lust, which is difficult to conquer by being firmly fixed in the self by the self. That means the self can be fixed by the self only. If the soul is determined not to enjoy, then nobody can shake it. That's the point. But generally, through the superior intelligence, that is Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, so samstabhya atmana atmanam, we take it as by intelligence, purified intelligence, we control the mind. That's what also it means. But here Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives a deeper understanding. Okay, so any questions you have about this third chapter which we have discussed today? Any questions, any clarifications? Okay, Navneet Kalra Mataji, you have a question?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I
Yes.
have a question. This purification of intelligence, does it happen with Gyan or Vigyan?
Well, we have to understand that when we hear Shastra, it is Bhagavad Gyan, Bhakti, in Bhakti, and we know that, overeating is not good, even if it is prasad. And with intelligence, we are convinced, but intelligence is under dictation of the mind. Dil manta nahi hai. Ye dil mange more, we say, na? That is the mind, in fact. So the mind is strong. So intelligence purification starts happening with the knowledge which we hear from Guru Sadhu and Shastras. And this intelligence being superior to the mind, now the intelligence is being strengthened, but the mind overcomes the intelligence. And Prabhupada mentions just like, when a person is diseased, the drug or the medicine should, act on the patient. But sometimes, because the disease is deep rooted, it overcomes the efficacy of the medicine and the disease doesn't go away. And sometimes very deep rooted disease, the medicine doesn't immediately act. We have to take for a long period, sometimes many years to overcome the disease. So our disease to enjoy, the mind is so strong, that it overcomes the intelligence. So the intelligence purification begins, and then with the gradual realizations which happen, that is Vigyan. And with that realization, the intelligence has become strong with discernment. The intelligence has two functions, discrimination and determination. So with that determined intelligence, when he is able to completely control the mind, then, it is Vigyan. So sometimes he is able to control, sometimes he is not able to control because the Gyan has not fully transformed into Vigyan. So, but both are happening. With the Gyan, gradually the Vigyan is also increasing. So it is not completely digital, that I have 100% Gyan and zero Vigyan. No, the Gyan is also increasing 30%, Vigyan is also 5% or 2%. Like that, gradually it is happening. And gradually, when the determination is strong, then the realization is deeper. And that with that determination, one controls the mind. I hope it's clear the point.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you. And is there what stage of bhakti corresponds to that, or is there a correlation or no? It happens at all the
What
stages.
stage of bhakti? What
Correspond to a
complete control?
realization, the purification or
That is basically
realization.
the stage of Nishta. Basically, the stage of Nishta, you can say.
Okay.
At Nishta, one is civilized, and at stage of Nishta, one has control over the body, mind and the senses. And this gradually happens, and further at the higher stages, there is deeper and deeper realization, Vigyan. But at the stage of Nishtha, you can say that one is self-controlled.
Yeah.
Are you
Thank you,
getting this
Prabhuji. Thank you.
point?
Yeah, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Thank you. It cleared so many doubts.
Yeah. Any other questions about this third chapter, this last section we have? Anyone has? Yes, Bir Krish Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhu, this verse 2.41, this can we relate with Vacho Vegam, Manasakrodh Vegam?
व्यवसायात्मिक ही कुरुनंदन. Why don't
No,
you
no,
relate
Prabhu.
with that? What is the reason?
No, Prabhu. No, not that. I'm saying ki this Papmanam Pradhiyenam, this can we relate with Vacho Vegam, Manasakrodh Vegam? That verse from NOI 1.
Tasmat tvam indriyanado.
Yes, Prabhu.
3.41 you're saying, correct?
Yes.
I
Yes.
thought 2.41. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, correct.
3.41.
Generally, yes. You can, in senses, Vacho Vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam, Jivva Vegam. Yes, the Bhakti, Indriyana, senses. Yes, definitely you can relate. And it will come in the 5th chapter. In the 5th chapter, uh, शक्नोति यशोडुम प्राक शरीर में काम क्रोध उद्भवम वेगम स युक्त स सुखी नर. So at this point, Prabhupada quotes Vacho Vegam, Manasa Vegam. Here you can see his whole quotation is one is able to control the forces of these days. So, he's speaking about it. Yeah, definitely you can relate. 3.41 also for us. Yeah. Yes, Vinita Mataji. Yeah, what is happening? 1 second, I'm not able to. One second. Yes, Vinita Mataji. You're able to unmute yourself now?
Yes, now yes, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji. You can speak.
Prabhuji, my one question is related to the
Oh, your
question.
audio is very, very low. You'll have to
Now
come
is it
near to
okay?
the mic.
Now is it okay?
No, not at all. No.
Okay. I'll type my question.
Yeah, you can type the question and send it in the group. We will answer it.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay, so we'll stop here. Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Anant Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.